Everybody, and welcome to the series, Mind Hacks to Actually Reach Your Goals. This series was designed to be about 8 to 10 minutes a day over the period of time, a few weeks, to literally go through what are the practical steps that we need to take our lives from where we are to where we got to be. Thanks for joining us, and let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the series. This is episode 5 of Hacking Your Mind to Achieve Your Goals. We spoke in last episode or two about neuroplasticity and how your brain works. And now we ended off on the last episode talking about the ritual. Let's talk about what that is. Now, a ritual is a set of behaviors that is designed to target your brain to enable the action to become conditioned into your mind so that ultimately becomes automatic. That's the game, right? Different parts of your brain, we don't have to talk about where, but in different regions of your brain are more conscious behaviors and more automatic behaviors. What you're trying to do is get your actions, to the ones you want, to be automatic. It requires a lot less energy. You get to do it. You don't have to waste some of your precious ego depletion, right? Your discipline muscle, and then you get what you want without having to exert the discipline to get there, right? That's the goal. So rituals do that. It's a carefully designed set of behaviors. And when you follow the ritual consistently, ultimately it targets your brain. Think of it like a targeted missile into your mind, and then it sets itself down, and then it's like sort of forms these connections until it becomes automatic. So we're going to talk for the next maybe episode or two about how to design one. So let's talk a little bit about sort of habits. And there's some good research done by a man named Charles Duhigg. He wrote a book called Power of Habits. There's another great book out there called Atomic Habits from, I think, James Dean. Did I get that right? Atomic Habits. And so the idea basically is that the brain follows a very specific method. They each have different approaches, but we're going to sort of stick to one approach here. And the idea is that if you can break down a habit, you can break down something that is automatic. It comes down to really 3 basic elements. And I think Dewey has this in his book. The cue, the routine, and the reward, right? I think this is Duhigg's framework. Atomic Habits is a little bit of a different framework. But I'll mix it up a drop. But basically the cue, the routine, and the reward, right? So that person that comes to the cabinet and eats whatever they want, right? There's a cue. The cue is stress and food in front of their face, right? If they're feeling stressed or tired or hungry or whatever the feeling is, and they see that food, that feeling in that place called their kitchen reaches for the food, the cookies, right? And the routine is eat the cookies until you feel full, and they do it. And then the reward is the feeling of satisfaction when you're eating it, the feeling the sugar hit, the feeling of full in your stomach, right? And so every time you get the cue, I'm hungry or I'm stressed or I'm super tired, the cue triggers, a cue is another word for a trigger, triggers the routine, go to kitchen, get the cookies, and it gives the reward, tastes good while it's going down, feels good when you feel satisfied. Got it? So everything we do in life has these 3 elements, or everything automatic. Something cues you. You wake up in the morning and there's a cue. What's the cue? My mouth feels gross. I don't know. I need something minty. That's a cue that wasn't always in your space. You got that at some point along the way when you started brushing your teeth with the mint of the toothpaste. Now, just so you know, mint doesn't do anything for your teeth. Mint is only there to solidify the neural connections in your brain. So when you wake up in the morning, you got that cue. You go into the routine as you go into the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you get the reward, which is to feel like you have a clean mouth, which is clean mouth is irrelevant, right? You feel like you have a fresh minted mouth, right? Think about everything you do, whether good habits or bad habits, right? Usually when you're doing anything, you're triggered in this triangle. Cue leads to routine, leads to reward. What we need to do is understand that when you can design these 3 pieces in the way that you want, you're actually building a ritual. A ritual, a good ritual, manipulates these three things. It allows you to identify cues and align your cues properly. It allows you to change your routines so that your routines get you to where you want to go in life, and it ultimately gives you the right rewards. And so when we start thinking about these rituals that we want to be doing, we have to think about it from these three perspectives. And I want to break them down and go through them. And from there, we'll sort of build off it. The first thing is the cue. Okay. And then we'll start with the cue. And then maybe in the next episode, we'll do the other two pieces. The cue is the most important piece to understanding habits. Why? Because the reason why we do automatic behaviors is because of the cue. Remember last episode or two or three, we spoke about neuroplasticity. What's neuroplasticity? It's just connections. When you trigger one, something else gets triggered because they're connected, right? Think of it like a framework, like a network. Think of it like a network, right? When one thing gets triggered, it automatically finds the next thing, which finds the next thing, which finds the next thing, which is why you could go from, eating the cereal bowl. Remember that one? Or why you have deja vu. It's triggered. Song camp, right? That's why certain things remind you of things. I spent a lot of my life on the road, and to eat somewhat healthy on the road and stay up, I would often live my life with raw almonds and coffee. Many people that I know just identify that with me. Raw almonds and coffee. I've moved past it. I've expanded my diet since, but I would live my life. Bag of raw almonds. I eat kosher. You can take that anywhere, right? And coffee is just, how I operate. So for me, even to this day, even though I don't really eat like that so much anymore, thank God I have larger, healthier meals. But even to this day, like when I eat almonds, if I eat a raw almond, my brain goes, "Hey, you know what you could use? How about a cup of coffee?" What does that do with anything? And the answer is because my brain goes, "Oh my God, an almond. We know this." Trigger, boom, to the coffee, right? Your brain is always triggering you for something. You're always being triggered because that's what a connection is, right? Cup triggers you to that cylinder, right? Like that, you're always triggering. That word means this to you, right? That person makes you feel threatened. As you look at the world, everything you see is a trigger to something else, which is why you could be like doing something and now you're off in space. How are you off in space? You're just doing something because it triggered you to a thought that led you to a thought, led you to a thought, led you to a thought. Next thing you know, you're thinking about some movie you saw when you were like 7 years old. Like, how did it even get here? Like, I don't, it's just all one network of just neural connections. So when you break it all down, it's a trigger. You control the trigger, you control what happens next, right? That's critical. I want everyone to get this. If you want to change your life, you got to change your habits, your rituals. Well, you build rituals around triggers. You can control triggers, you can control everything else. This happens to you all the time, right? If you're sitting at your desk and it's 12 o'clock and you're starving. Starving. Why? Because you eat every day at 12 o'clock at your desk. Then you're on the road for a day or you're doing something else and it's 2:30 and you're like, hey, I didn't realize I didn't eat yet. Why? Because you're not sitting at your desk at 12 o'clock. Your brain doesn't have the same trigger, right? All the time. Fine. What does that mean? When you're designing a ritual, identify a cue that you will already do all the time. Don't create cues. It's too hard to create a cue out of nowhere, right? It's like if you look at how cities build, very rarely do you see a city being built out of nowhere. Just plop down and put down a city. Usually there's an existing city, existing infrastructure, and then they add a block or a little bit of a development, right? Usually the way civilization grows is there's something in the middle and they just continue to expand. If you want to build a habit, you got to find what is already structured. Find a cue that you already wake up in the morning and do stuff. You already go to bed at night and do stuff. You already go to work or wherever you go. Meaning you have things in your life that you are already doing in a structured way, which means in that space, there's real connections. Going to work is a real neurological connection for you. You know how to get there. It's all structured. You got there. Waking up in the morning in that routine, coming home from work in that routine. You have structured things throughout your day. Take one of those things that you're already doing and now use it as a cue to trigger something else. Got it? Wake up in the morning, add something to wake up. because you've already woken up. You do it every single day. It's a cue. It may not be anything. One day you look at your phone. One day you go to the bathroom. One day you go pray. I don't know. Own it, right? You're already pulling into the driveway. You're ready at night. First thing you do in the house. You're already sitting at your desk, and the first thing you do when you sit down, right? Whatever. You do things throughout your day, throughout your week that is already structured. You're going to be at this place all the time. You're going to be waking up at this time somewhat, right? You're going to bed at this time. You're going to be here at you're doing. If those moments are not already taken, use them because they make great cues. And what you got to do is when you're about to make your routine, which is coming next, first always do your routine next to that thing, because over time your brain will say, we're here, let's do this. That makes sense? Last thing before we close. Understand that a lot of the negative behaviors you have is because of the trigger. So if you want to get rid of a negative behavior, you just got to avoid the trigger. We'll talk about that in the future. But until then, identify current structure and then manipulate that as a cue. All right, we'll talk again. See you next time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the series. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped. I hope it really made a difference in your life. And for those that tagged us on social media and shared it, for those that left a podcast review, for those that shared it with your friends, shared it on your status, we appreciate it. It means a lot to us that you felt comfortable enough to share this with others of people that you care about. If you missed a day, make sure to check out the show notes for the link to the entire series. You can join us on the Unlocking Greatness Insider community by going to charlieharary.com/insiders. And we look forward to hearing your feedback on Instagram and on Twitter and YouTube and WhatsApp and everything else. But really, really appreciate your time and attention and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again.